Hello and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. This is my adult baby blog. This weekend we sort of went out a little bit and we met with a friend. Um, the Barbies and I we went out and had a beer and pizza party. And a new thing that's bought for the Barbies is basically this is actually a cat bed um, for the Barbies, and this allows the Barbies sort of to sit and also have a little bit of rest. Some new members to the Adult Baby Space and Barbie sorority are Jem. Jem is represents an alter ego of me. Basically, in my later undergraduate years, starting in my junior and senior year, basically thinking about fully transitioning, but actually transitioning half time. Diana is the alter ego of me as I exist now, basically fully transitioned. And a newest member that's been added to this, and we were debating how to do this. This is Davis. We're debating as to whether having Davis come as a boy dressed as a girl or just as a little girl, and has decided to have Davis come as a little girl. Davis represents me being transgendered when I would spend summers in Kenosha with my grandparents and also playing alone at home or basically in safe areas when I was growing up during my elementary school years. And with the baby space, also, um, I'd like to mention though is I use a certain brand of diapers. One brand I like is Little for Big diapers. They really do work. They really do let you enjoy the freedom and other stuff. But you may wonder, with the baby space, what's the play involved today with the baby space? Well, um, with the baby space, we're going to have Barbie basically start the baby space. And Barbie, would you like to start it? Yes. Well, Diana is going to talk a little bit about her transgender history in hopes that basically she can help others. And adult baby space allows her to do this as well as also the Barbie sorority. But the reason for the adult baby space is basically everyone needs an outlet, everyone needs a release to get away from the world as it exists, sort of as a way to break away. Sometimes it's science fiction, sometimes it's not. And for Diana, basically it was science fiction, one time it was tech, but now it's not. And so basically the adult baby space and Barbie sorority is Diana's breaking away. So let's start with Davis. Davis, could you explain a little bit about your existence in the adult in the baby space and also as a child when you were growing up? Yes. Well, as a child, we lived in Wauwatosa, lived in a nice section of Wauwatosa. However, at that time, Wauwatosa was part of Milwaukee School District, and we had some bad cult kids that came from Milwaukee. We so called them the Fourth Reich cults because they sort of believed that they had won World War II and they're going to try to restart the Fourth Reich in Milwaukee. The bullying was so bad for me. I had to carry an Instamatic camera because basically to get pictures as to who was bullying me because I'm face blind. So basically that was how I protected myself. I carried an Instamatic camera, and then I had a Sony AM/FM radio which I used to listen to the radio if no one wanted to play with me. But after a while I had some girls that wished to be friends with me, and we listened to the radio. Sometimes I'd play soccer, sometimes I'd play American football, but mostly with the friends who were girls, we listened to music. Well, that was nice, but um, did that help a little bit? Yes, it did. But the other thing about growing up, basically being diagnosed transgender when I was age 7, is that sometimes the cowboys, if I rode my bike to school, sometimes they do some mean things. I'd have to park my bike by the principal's window because they let the air out of the tires. Or other times they loosened the brake mounting so the bike wouldn't stop. And I had that happen one time, and luckily I was able to stop the bike. Really? Yes. Did they do it because you're transgender? Not at first. They did it because I was a Polak. To them, I was German on the wrong side. My mother was German. My dad was Prussian, Polish, and Russian. His family. So what happened was this, and even in later years, basically, this would be brought up when I met one time. Well, I'll let Diana explain that to you. But so when I went to Kenosha and stayed with my grandparents, I was able to enjoy myself dressed as I wished, but it still was told to stay in certain neighborhoods because basically certain neighborhoods we were protected, but other neighborhoods we weren't. So really, basically, even though you lived in an advanced suburb, there still was a lot going on. Yes, and that's why I really blossomed more when I went to Kenosha. Well, let us take a short break for a moment because there's one other part of Diana's um, a life person I don't wish to join us. So let us take a short break. Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to Diana's Adult Baby Chat. A little bit about history of her life being a transgender child raised age 7, but at that time being raised as a boy, not allowed to transition, but only do half time in selected areas. Now, joining us next is Diana's second stage of development when she was in junior high school, all the way all the way through her time in junior high school. And what happens? Her alter ego in junior high school was Renee. So basically, Renee, would you like to explain something? Yes. Well, what happens? Um, the reason why basically in elementary school why Davis was used rather than Diana's real name because in Prussian, Russian, and Polish culture, there's a form of a dual gender dual gerund. So Davis is both masculine and feminine for a certain Christian name, which has a masculine base. And even like in Polish Prussian, and Russian culture, what happens is the last name is gender based. So basically, it has an I or an A. An A if it's a woman, or I if it's a man. But the family always kept it as an I in that though. So when Davis went to junior high school, what happened was Davis couldn't exist just basically being partial. So what happened was at the junior high school, her parents were able to work with the junior high school administration as well as some of the principals. So basically, Davis was able to exist as me, Renee. Although basically she wished she could have wore outfits like this, she wore better outfits like this outside of school when she went out with friends and other things in limited occasions. But the main thing was in school was sociologically she could exist more in basically her transgender feminine form, not so much as a toxic male form as in elementary school. So what that meant is she took special gym classes that were assigned for children who were different compared to what the traditional curriculum was for gym classes. Sometimes even taking classes with the special ed kids or special needs kids, because basically sometimes the toxic male family kids in gym class could be very cruel, as they were to me one time when I left the locker unlocked and someone took a book in the textbook and they flushed it in the toilet to have my parents try to pay $80 for this textbook. And what the gym teacher did was he found out who did it. He found out everyone witnessed it. So he made each of them pay part of the $80, and the parents complained. But what happened was basically it was never done again. But yet, one other thing that happened is Diana had a gift watch that's given to her from her parents, a Bulova, and that was stolen. And what happened was basically it was never returned. But again, the people they found out it was members of Gym Class, and they made them pay the replacement fee for stealing a Bulova watch back then. And so what happens with me though, basically, I was able to exist, and also I would think about cheerleading, orchestra, and even being in a rock group like that though. So a lot of things, musical things, other than what existed as male activities at that time, and this allowed Diana to do many different things. Well, let's take a short break from this segment, and we'll move on to Diana's college years. And thank you, Renee. Well, I'm the second version of Diana in her college years. The first version, which will be joining us in a few days from now, is basically more like Barbie and the Lockers, because Diana was is a big fan of Madonna, and she loved Desperately Seeking Susan. I saw formed in Diana's junior and senior year, and basically because Diana was a fan of Jim and the Holograms, and also different types of rock groups, especially girl groups at that time, the Go Go's, Samantha Fox, and Diana basically also started to dress more. Actually, during her during her college phase as Barbie in the Lago, she bought her first pair of Loctites. And what happened was at the time though, she wasn't sure about whether she could wear a dress or skirt to university, because you have to remember this was 1982 and Diana was a freshman. And even at the University of Wisconsin, there still was some things like that though, because basically this was at University of Wisconsin Parkside, not Madison. And even at Madison, there's some things about that. If you weren't considered a true blue Democrat, you didn't get full support. And Diana was independent in thought, as her parents had raised her and her sister to be independent in thought, read all the banned books, listen to all the news that you shouldn't listen to get opposite points of view. So again, not a knee-jerk Democrat. So what happened, Diana would wear the tights and she'd wear it under her pants. And some of her English teachers her noticed it, and and also art professors, and they thought that was very cool. And what happened was her English teachers and her art professors were very sympathetic. One art professor, David, was a mentor to Diana and helped her quite a bit. Although at that time during that time Diana used a different name. Basically, she sort of used the stage name of Belinda because she's a fan of Belinda Carlisle and the Go-Go's, and that though, in addition to Madonna. And then later, basically in her senior year, Diana became more confident in her expression and also how to live her life, because it's still, you have to learn how to live your life even after college. So what happens, this is where Diana sort of developed basically this style of Jem and the Holograms. Basically, in the cartoon series, Jem is an executive businesswoman, as well cares for Starlight House with children, and also does social good. And Diana, and she realizes that Jem had two different lives, Jem and Jerica. So Diana basically decided to live basically as two different names, her given name and then her fem name. And basically, so it's like what many of us did during the time was working half time. And in this phase, as Jem, basically Diana worked for a very long time, half time. And part of the reason why is because what happened, even in Milwaukee, they used to show the play Breaking the Code on Masterpiece Theater, and because basically many things in the medical research park were basically based on strict things of breaking the code. And so what happens, Diane talked with her parents, and she came to realize that at one time when she wanted to transition to Madison, she she rejected it because they wanted her to be completely Betty Crocker, go become a quant. They wanted her to become a quant in a different way, basically a statistical analyst, and basically so not even interact with people. So she could transition, but she'd be put in a box and put in a corner. That's horrible. Even back then, even Madison, yes. And that's why Diana stayed at Parkside, because she thought she has a better option she could do at Parkside than through Madison. And even when she graduated from Parkside, her medical research job, she is still treated as a quant, because basically, at one point, basically, when Saturday Night Live had this sketch about the Xerox, the copy man, saying the man who fixes the copiers, and they ran this for multiple weeks. Some of the people Diana worked with started referring to her as the fax guy, not even her given name, and that got Diana very upset. Um, and also made it that she wanted to basically leave the unit. Like one friend of hers said, "Get out of this chicken unit." And she tried to. She tried to transfer first, and they weren't allowed to transfer. And then finally, at one point, there came a confrontation where they tried to confront her, and Diana defended herself and promptly resigned. But fortunately, 2 weeks later, there's a job that came in from San Diego, and she was able to continue her career with a greater promotion, start her life as an executive. So in some ways, what happened was that confrontation helped move her up, but basically it still is very traumatic to her. Yes, it is. Sometimes she has dreams about what her future would have been like if she would have stayed in medical research, or what if she would have gone to medical school, and that what her future would have been like. So is it like a form of PTSD? Yes, it is. It's like someone nagging you, and you can't get them out of your head. And sometimes that's why Diana sometimes has trouble sleeping at night, because she gets up late in the morning. So what do you guys do? Well, we found out taking some supplements that help resolve anxiety. Ashka, ASH, Galenga. It's a anxiety supplement that we bought on Amazon, and also migraine medicine, which is generic Excedrin, helps quite a bit if we take both of those, because it causes both the migraine and causes anxiety. The first thing is treat the anxiety and treat the migraine. Oh, so does that help? Yes, it has been helping quite a bit. And but we still have trouble getting up late. We getting up early, and so we have to always tell friends, when she calls in early morning, just call back. We'll eventually pick up, but sometimes we have trouble getting to bed, because sometimes we'll just go in bed and lay there because our minds are not at full rest. So, um, so basically, when you worked half time, what was it like? Well, the general I worked at halftime that we worked with at halftime, he was a good guy. He was from Texas, and he understood with Diana's parents that Diana's parents wanted her to stay on the farm. What does that mean? Well, Diana was raised as a farm boy that lives in the city. So basically, the benefits of the city, but still with farmers' attitudes, beliefs, and customs. Oh, so what about the general? Well, the general felt was the same way. He was raised on. His parents wanted him to stay on the ranch after he came back from Vietnam, but he realized that there's a greater need for him to help the country, and also the same with us. There was a greater need with us, that the country needed our help. So, um, my parents worked out a special way for me, so that I could work, even though basically I had the PTSD, but also work half time. Really, half time? Well, now, was this before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, or after Don't Ask, Don't Tell? Well, actually, it was a few years before Don't Ask, Don't Tell, but then started during the period of Don't Ask, Don't Tell DAT. How was that? Well, it's exactly what Diana used to run into research part. Don't ask, don't tell is not an exact policy because what it means is someone can't ask you directly if you're LGBTQ, lesbian, gay, bi, transgender, questioning or other. Um, but what happens, it doesn't prohibit them from asking other people, saying, well, doesn't this person seem weird to you? Don't you think this person does this? And what happens, there are many servicemen who are outed that way and still are trying to get their full benefits. Really? Um, we had Obama and Biden. Didn't they get it under Obama and Biden? Not yet. Did they get under any other president? Yes, they got under Trump in his first term, and even in his second term. Really? Trump's a Republican. He said, well, Trump understands because even during the Miss Universe pageant, he allowed transgender contestants to compete in the Miss Universe pageant. That's right, he did. And that was so that shows. But the thing is, even working halftime, what happened was that there came a point that Diana and I basically realized that we just couldn't continue to work halftime because it was causing great mental stress. And at one point, we had a nervous breakdown and had to spend a few days in the hospital for psychological, emotional, and physical exhaustion. And that's when basically our new focus in our life formed, which is actually Diana. And why don't we switch? Why don't I let Diana explain the rest? Okay. Well, we'll take a short break as we come back. Whoops. Oh, so yeah. And Renee, by the way, was laying down because it's still upsetting to her that basically that we had to do this as a step-by-step process because Renee remembers Diana's mother saying she wished that she could allow Diana to transition much sooner and that basically that they could have had the talk much sooner, but due to the culture that existed back then, that my mother's glad that she transitioned as well as her parents. She still has trouble with her stepsister, as they are estranged. So that's why sometimes Renee was a little bit upset because it's just to think that basically we still have more to do. So let us take a short break. Now with me is Diana as she lives now and exists now, and this is her alter ego as a Barbie where she can channel back and forth. Diana, let me ask you, um, when you decided to transition, um, some people think when you transition, um, it's something that you do right away, you do it easily, and it's an easy decision. No, it's not. It's not an easy decision because what happens is that many people who transitioned did exactly like I did. They tried to live with the system, they tried to live with the society for many years, and eventually they realized with themselves they have to live with themselves. But in living with themselves, it's not an easy choice. Well, could you elaborate? Can I speak freely? Yes, of course, always. Well, um, when you transition, what happens though? Let me just give an example. For example, someone who's transitioned from a man to a woman. In the United States, when you transition, you automatically reduce your salary by 33%. If you transition from a man to a woman in Europe and Canada, you reduce your salary by 50%. Also, when you transition, most colleges, universities in the United States, Europe, and Canada will assume that your IQ has gone down 30 points. And most men will assume that basically you don't know anything about mechanics, engineering, and will do mansplaining. Oh God, I've heard about it. I've lived it. So how did you feel when you first ran into that? Well, it's something that my mother and I discussed after my dad died, and she said, if you realize when you transition, you're not gonna have all the privileges that you had as a man, and and in the society we live in this area, you're gonna be treated very much as women because this area hasn't moved ahead. And even if you go to advanced areas like LA or New York, you won't get certain things unless you become highly political. And I know you don't want to become highly political. You believe in social change, but you don't believe in radical politics, and you don't believe in radical demonstrations. You believe in writing letters to people, talking to people, having coffee. So you're going to go through sort of being treated and sort of talked to sometimes in a dumbed down manner by men, and even by certain women who are controlled by men. Yes, that's true. That happens. And what about the salary? Well, I had prepared for basically that about living with 33% less salary. But so what I did was basically, rather than work for a company that's very sexist and very male oriented, that's going to pay 33% and force me to do a forced dress code with sexual harassment. I did what many independent women did and alpha women did. I made my own job. I worked as a consultant, and that's why I worked as a consultant, and also started entrepreneurs, starting two companies, and also helping other people, being a book agent, literary agent, going into right now doing toy making, working in retirement, IoT, and that though in retirement. So you decided right ahead to take the reins, as they'd say in the West, and get on the horse and ride the horse yourself. Yes, and that was because the one general I worked with was from Texas. That's one thing I like about Texas is Texas. If you fall off the horse, you get on the horse and go again, and you take the reins. Also in Texas, it goes back to like one thing about Michael Todd, who was married to Elizabeth Taylor. Oh yes, your mother was very much a fan of Elizabeth Taylor and Michael Todd. And I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead, Diana. Yes. Well, Michael Todd said, if you know how to make a million the first time, you can make it always again. And I've always remembered how I succeeded at many different things, and I've always been able to succeed again. The primary thing is how I succeeded is I never took things too seriously. The biggest achievements I made, I always done on a lark. You mean not? You mean you did it just as a challenge or a gag, or just not really taken serious? Not really. Yes, and so what do people think about it? Well, people thought I was a hot shot. They still think I'm a hot shot. Some people, and we see. And one time, a friend of mine, we were out at one fast food restaurant, and I was talking with friends about some of that. And there's one person that listened from one major company, and we seen that took away my dad's pension. And they said, well, no wonder no one hired her because she's a hot shot. And I just laughed, and I said, what? Why'd you laugh? Well, because for them to call me a hotshot after their company took away my dad's pension after he saved Walker Manufacturing from bankruptcy in 1969 is quite ironic and quite hysterical. I can see that. I can see that. So did you confront the person? No. Like my parents said, move on and forward, because eventually when other people realized what had happened and they realized who I was, they quietly left. They quietly left and decided to go back to work early. Touche. QED. Yes, QED indeed. But the thing is, in transitioning though, there's still challenges that you go through, and also the most important thing is you have to go through on budget, because you may think you can rely on social service, you may think you can rely on other things, but the main thing is you have to know people at the federal level to survive, because basically if you go locally, you still have people that aren't fully educated, that aren't fully trained. Even though they may be good in nature, they still, or they may be controlled by the church, they may be controlled by a pastor that says, well, it's a sin for men to wear women's clothes. They actually did that to you. I had this done on the bus many times when I fully transitioned. Finally what happened was some of the bus people who load the bus talked with them and got the guy off the bus. And some of the bus drivers and even the police department came and said and put undercover officers, because they realized that that's not the type of kenosha that I was raised in as a child, and other people were these were carpetbaggers that were coming and trying to take over Kenosha. So really, it really depends on what area where you go. Yes, it does. And like basically like the Romans say, when in Rome you have to do as the Romans do, but not necessary. But the most important thing is like in the gamble, you have to know how to read the room. And when you do need to read the room, you also have to know how to defend yourself. It's not necessarily physical, but you have to know how to use your wits and also how to use your intelligence. It's not about overpowering, it's about using your wits and intelligence to mitigate and walk away. I see what you're saying. So basically you really did transition much earlier than your full transition because that's how most women have to live. Exactly. Well, Diana, and also let's go back. I like to think all aspects of whoops, let's see. I like to think oops, let's see if we can do it this way. I like to think all aspects of Diana's self as explaining this because this is very hard for her and this is very hard for anyone else. So I'd like to thank Diana, Davis, Renee, and Jim, all for having the courage and the candor to explain openly and to explain freely. And to anyone who is having certain discussions and certain thoughts like that, though, just remember, you don't have a right to be abused. You don't have a right to have someone quote the Bible and say, well, you're a man wearing women's clothes. You don't have the right to say that if you're an ex-military or military contractor that nowadays the military doesn't accept dudes in dresses. Our allies accept LGBTQ, and also we accept LGBTQ as military contractors, even though we have a different thought in the current administration. And also, what happens if someone is coming after you and doing something? Just remember three key things. First thing is find a women's chapter, like Women and Children's Horizon in Kenosha, to contact when you're facing domestic abuse, whether it's from your boyfriend or whether it's from your girlfriend, because also lesbian abuse goes on, gay abuse goes on. So a place like Women and Children's Horizons, and then they're not a church-based center. Stay away from church-based centers because you'll get their 12-step program and that doesn't help. So Women's Children's Horizons is a good choice. There's a women's shelter in Racine that's a good choice, and those are the two main women's shelters in the Milwaukee, Chicago corridor. And also, it's surprising, basically, how many other people have called them from other parts of the country. In addition, also contact your congressman or congresswoman. Just because someone's a Republican doesn't mean they're not going to help you. Like there's a Republican congressman in this area that Diana contacts and helps other people and he's been very helpful, even to those who are LGBTQ, and he's been very supportive as an ally, just like Margaret Hoover on Firing Line and Hoover Institution is supportive as an ally of LGBTQ. The Freedom Coalition and some other Republican organizations are supportive as allies of LGBTQ more than so-called Democratic Party organizations. So I'd like to thank you for watching, and I know this has been an awful lot to absorb, but if you can, try to share with your friends, and also don't be afraid to be you. And Davis wanted to say something. And the hardest step is they're gonna try to tag you the first time you do it. Like when I was younger. And what I still say is what I did when I was younger. If you have to carry a camera, buy a camera. Don't use your phone. Your phone camera doesn't work as fast as it should. Buy a film camera or a disposable film camera, or actually buy an electronic camera that you carry with you, like a Vivitar or something, and take a picture, and also go to the principal and have your parents also work with the local police department, because they can go through the school book and find who the bullies are. They can't hide in anonymity. Another thing is also never be goaded to throwing the first punch, because they'll be trying to goad you to throw the first punch. Don't always walk away, no matter what they say. You're not chicken. You're not sissy. Always walk away. Don't let them goad you into doing something violent. Walk away. Well, thank you, Davis. That's important, because what happens whenever you do anything new, they're going to try to stop you in that though. And even like Diana in her human form, she takes us out on trips in her purse every so often, 2 or 3 at a time. And she actually went to Racine Common Council with two of us there to present a thought on loneliness, and about why basically the Barbie sorority, why we support each other in loneliness. So again, keep strong, and like Shania Twain said in Black Eyes Blue Tears, don't live on your knees, live freely, like that though. And that's one of our favorite songs, Black Eyed Blue Tears, from Shania Twain. This has been the Adult Baby Space and the Barbie as part of the Barbie Sorority House Talk and Starlight House Talk. Thank you, Barbie. And also, don't forget to remember, Barbie, we're also building the Starlight House in addition to the Barbie Sorority House to adopt foster teenage and child dolls, like that though, so they have a place to stay as well. Thank you, Jim. Yes, and let's see if we can show you that before we go. We'll just take a short break. And this is the Starlight sorority house that's being built. This is part of it. You can see the first floor has already been laid, and here's the extension. And let us show you what was been done today. We were able to get supplies since we were paid again, and these are the building supplies for the next 3 floors. We're planning to add furniture, and also we're planning to do like in the cartoon series, to have counseling services via Zoom. So let us know what you think, and remember, the best way is on YouTube, X, Instagram, and please remember, when you reply, Diana sometimes has trouble replying because sometimes some days her health issues act up, so she'll try to reply as fast as possible. And thank you for watching.